Past players, past legends, past legends.
We welcome Ross, the Marshal, Dillion. Roscoe, so for Melbourne, between 66 and 72, 85 games, 133 goals. Leading goal kicker in 69 with 48, 70 with 41. Played state football for both Victoria and South Australia. Coming over to Norwood, his debut in career from 73 to 78 at Norwood, 114 games, 242 goals. Of course, the best and fairest in the premiership year in 75, third in the Magarey. Leading goal kicker 73, 75. Advertiser team of the year 75. Couple of games South Australia. Welcome aboard, Roscoe.
Thanks, Malcolm.
And very good cricketer as well.
Well, I was going to get to that.
Yes.
We've obviously talked about your exploits on the footy field, but mate, where did it all start? Obviously, growing up in Kyabram.
Yeah, Kyabram in northern Victoria, town of about 7,000 people these days. Fruit growing and dairying area. That's where I lived for the first 17 years of my life.
And did you play for a local junior club up there?
I played for the Kyabram High School for a couple of years and then got in the first in, must have been 65. We had a really good team. We had Dick Clay, who ultimately played in 4 premierships for Richmond.
Yep.
He was our centre forward. And ultimately we lost the grand final to a Tom Hafey coach Shepparton, by a small margin.
Roscoe still kicks himself for hitting the post towards the end. He's brought that up with me a couple of times. So.
Worst sporting moment of my life.
So you mentioned also that you were a keen cricketer as well. Did you'd played for the school as well?
Played for school and then played for Kyabram. Played in the sort of inter-zone teams, and then in 1965, I wanted to play cricket for Melbourne and footy for Melbourne. Melbourne had just come off 6 premierships in 10 years with Barassi as captain, Norm Smith as coach, and a lot of fantastic players in the footy team. But Clive Fairbairn was a chairman of selectors at Melbourne Cricket Club, and he was formerly a Kyabram man, known to our family. So those were the main reasons that I wanted to play for Melbourne.
Some pretty handy names there, Barassi and
Norm Smith.
Norm Smith. Oh,
and
wow.
Roscoe's quite, and so he should be, very proud he's a member of the Kyabram cricket team of the century, along with the Australian elegant left-hand opening batsman Matty Elliott. Jimmy, trying to think who else was in that side. There was
Jimmy Higgs was named coach.
Yes, I knew that Higgs was the other one. Yep.
Mainly because he went to private school in Melbourne and played when he was home for a team called Fire Brigade. But he's Kyabram, through and through. Yeah.
And so ending up Melbourne, quite young, and probably a little bit unlucky, as it turned out they were on the decline a little bit. But so debuting for Melbourne, go through that, Roscoe.
First game of 1966. Was selected at centre half forward. We played St Kilda, who were ultimately that year's premiers, their only premiership in their history. 60 plus thousand people. I'd always dreamt of it as a kid, wanting to do that, and it was a memory I'll never forget. I went to Melbourne High School for a year, and things were going pretty well until after the sixth game, I hurt my knee at training in an uncontested drill, which subsequently cost me a couple of years. I had 2 operations on one cartilage, which in those days it was a little more involved than it is these days. But that wasn't much fun because it knocked the footy around and also knocked the cricket around. Just in the years when I, would really have loved to have been playing it.
Did I read somewhere that 10 out of the 12 Victorian clubs cricket were chasing you down?
No, that was in footy.
No, that was a footy club. Sorry.
Yeah, I had a couple of interesting incidents there where in 1965 when it was going pretty well at Kyabram with Dick Clay and, there were teams coming up all the time. It was before zoning and a couple of quick stories there. Mum was out on the golf course one day. My father was killed when I was in 1963. So Jack Dyer went out on the golf course, to see Mum, which I'm sure he would have had his ears bashed out there. And then I was riding my bike out with some mates out to the local golf course with Mum's golf bag over my shoulder, and a car pulled up alongside me and asked me, was I Ross? And said, well, do you mind if I have a chat? So there were 2 fellows in the car, and one was Bob Davis, the coach of Geelong, and the other was Leo O'Brien, who was their secretary manager.
Yep.
And they offered me a trip to Hawaii at the end of season trip. And I'd been to Melbourne a couple of times, but Hawaii was a bit out of the imagination.
Wow.
So
that would have been pretty hard to knock back, Roscoe.
Yeah.
Yes, but so I went to my senior master at school. As I said, I didn't have dad. Anyway, I went to my senior master, who I played footy with, Ozzie Nelson, a really good man, and asked Mr. Nelson what he thought, and he said, "Well, do you want to play with them?" And I said, "No, I want to play for Melbourne." And he said, "Well, probably it'd be a good idea if you didn't go." But Geelong had a terrific team at the time with Polly Farmer, and Dennis Marshall, and Peter Walker, and all of those fellows. So Doug Wade, So, and as you said before, Melbourne were when Barassi left at the end of '64 to go and coach Carlton. That was the start of a demise of Melbourne for probably lasted the next 50 years until a couple of years ago when they won the premiership. Yep.
And then '69, Roscoe, was that your best year? And then the end of year the state carnival where you dominated for Victoria.
No, I didn't dominate. We had Royce Hart as
you got more praise than Hart did. I reckon I'd take that as domination, Roscoe.
No, only because he went off. He had to go off in the last game against South Australia on the Saturday. I think he went into the game with a suspect calf, and he only lasted about a quarter, but he'd kicked a couple of goals already. I came on and we played. I played on Rick Schoff, who was pretty handy. And at halftime, the scores were even, but then things started to turn, and we finished up winning by 10 or 12 goals. But we had some of the players in our team. You had Nichols, Jezelenko, Hudson, Bob Keddy, Bob Murray, Kevin Murray, Barry Davis, Kevin Bartlett.
It's a fair side.
That is a fair side.
Especially before State of Origin, so having Hudson and that as well,
Sam Newman as well. Kekovic, although I don't think Kega played in too many games. I think he was injured. Yeah. But, that was fun. 50,000 people at Adelaide Oval and the old Oval with, the old setup with the temporary stands going down King William Street there. And there might have been 50,000 there, and be lucky if 1,000 of them were barracking for Victoria. I do remember.
I hope it wasn't that many. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Barassi was our coach.
Yep.
And I remember going on to replace Royce Hart and running for a ball early on, and just an elbow came across, just missed my chin. And the message, it was Harry Kernahan, and the message came out from Barassi that you have to go a bit faster or a bit harder. And I didn't send the message back, but I thought if I'd been half a yard quicker, I would have lost my face. Anyway, but yeah, very memorable. Always wanted to play for Victoria. And at the end of the last game, I had a visit from a guy, a young fella from Western Australia, wanting to know if I'd swap my jumper with his. And I said, no way. I've dreamt of getting one of these all my life. You're not getting my big V. It just happened to be a fellow I became really good friends with later, and still am, is John Wynn. He was playing for Western Australia.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but he wasn't getting it. He's that was my first contact with Johnny.
The connections we've got through this show. We've had Winnie on.
Yes.
Right. How did that go? Because
entertaining as expected. Yes.
He didn't leave us wanting, that's for sure.
No.
No, great man to have. I call him Digger.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's the one you'd want in the trenches.
Bloody oath.
Yes.
So, and then the Melbourne. How much did the part of your injuries play a part in deciding to come to South Australia?
Well, in '72, I got at the start, or in pre-season, I got an Achilles problem that from running on the roads, trying to get fitter.
Yeah.
An inflamed Achilles, and I couldn't get rid of it for about half the season. And having been Victorian team 69, 70, I think. I'm not sure about 71, but anyway, so I missed about the first half of the year. Came back in the seconds and for the first game and got 11 and went into the first next week. Melbourne were going all right, and we lost in a wet day against Fitzroy on the MCG. Got dropped the next week, and first time I'd been dropped. Didn't enjoy it very much. At the end of the season, they offered 15 guys contracts, and I wasn't one of them.
Bizarre.
And so I virtually made my mind up then that Melbourne weren't going anywhere. I'd lost a fantastic friend in Norm Smith that had gone to South Melbourne to coach, and then in '73, I think he went to North Melbourne. He wanted me to go to North Melbourne when Barassi had gone there to coach. Norm was going to be his chairman of selectors. But I didn't enjoy Melbourne living all of that much.
Yeah.
I was a country boy. And I didn't think that Melbourne weren't heading anywhere. And I thought, if that's so, contracts were just starting.
Yep.
If I wasn't included in that after being there for 7 years, well, I'll move. They tried to talk me out of it, but I said, look, car's already packed, I'm going. And then they came back after 75 and wanted me to go back, but along with North Melbourne, but I chose to stay here, and probably fortunate that I did.
How did you get to Norwood? Was there somebody that approached you, or?
It was mainly through Wally Miller.
Yeah, I thought it would have been.
I think Norwood had Robert Odie as coach, and he had he developed a lot of terrific young kids, Butto and Woody and Black, Glenn Rosser and Gags, and Mike Colligan, etc. They had a developing team, and I think and you had Glenn McMahon, I think.
Yes.
Took over from Rex Wilson. Rex was involved in my move, but I think there were guys. Robert wouldn't necessarily have wanted an interstate player, But he had Winnie already, so that was enough. No, but I don't think Robert was over keen, but the likes of Glenn McMahon and these guys thought that Ford needed a centre forward come centre half back or whatever, and I think that's where the drive came from. And yeah, Glenelg were visiting at the same time with girls and Harry Kernahan. Norwood. I chose to go to Norwood.
Thank goodness the Redlegs got you over the line. And this,
I sort of never regretted it. So it was Wally and Rex. Rex Wilson was in the meeting when we finally got arranged a clearance. What it cost them or not, I don't know.
Wally's a shrewd operator, isn't he? He can spot talent. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, Wally's one of the great administrators in football history.
Yeah.
This went off.
Wally and probably Norm Smith are the two most, and Bob Hammond, three of the most significant football people in my footy time, yeah.
And this is when I've actually first met Ross, because Ross, when he came over, played cricket for Kensington. Yep. Took 5 for in his first A-grade game.
Your eyes would have lit up, mate.
Yeah, I was, because I did the scoreboard at Kenzie as a kid. So I was about 10 or 11 when so that's when I first met Ross before he played footy for Norwood. So then debuting for Norwood in 73, Roscoe?
73.
Yep.
73. We played Sturt and got whopped on at Norwood Oval. Rick Davies in his prime, and I probably got to know Sandy Nelson as a centre half back for the first time. So they gave us that was an interesting introduction. As I said, Robert was coaching, and Robert's coaching was interesting, but he was equally important in Norwood's subsequent premierships. Yeah, because he developed all of these young guys who are the backbone of Norwood, throughout the 70s and early 80s, undoubtedly. And then Hamo came along and taught us how to work and how to, hard work and the importance of winning. And then Barmy came along after that and, did really well.
And 74 was a bit disappointing finish to the end of the year. We bombed in the finals, but then 75, Norwood and Glenelg, the two dominant sides, we won 16 in a row, and I always thought it was hilarious, just because we lost the second semi, that Glenelg was such overwhelming favourites, where for mine it was always a 50-50 game, and I think that actually turned out to our advantage, and Glenelg were. Yeah, it was bizarre how they were such overwhelming favourites.
Oh, well, they were known that year as the unbeatable Bays. And, they had Curls coaching and, the press were all over that. And, I think we beat Glenelg at...
It was 1-1. They beat us and we beat them at Glenelg, yes. Yeah. Yeah,
with a game or two to go. And... we had a pretty good win there. We'd won 16. I thought it was even 8, but let's say 16 in a row.
Yeah.
And, so we went into the second semi and, they beat us. They had a good team, no doubt. And then we had to beat Port Adelaide in the preliminary final, which...
certain Greg Turnbull dominated.
Yeah, Turbs.
Turbs kicked 6, yep.
Jesus, a good player, Turbs. I better tell him that. I better remember next time I see him.
Got to make sure it's early in the morning. So.
No, he's a good fella, Turbs.
Yes,
man. Yeah. So then we had them in the grand final, and it was seesawing, and then Curls made his great move and put Butch Phyllis into the ruck. and to try and quell Butto, who was dominating. And that was one of the finest things that ever happened to me in my life.
It helped you, yes. Colin Anderson went on to you, and mind you, the bit out of it. Butch virtually might as well have been taking you out dancing for that second semi in the first three quarters. He was holding on to you the whole bloody game, and you didn't get anything. And then, ironically, you get a lucky free kick in the last quarter.
You only had one umpire in those days. It was Peter Mead, but I'm not going to bollock Butch. Butch is a mate of mine and great competitor, and one of your opponents that you respect.
Yep.
But I have asked him, that holding on business, was that you or Curls? And he said, probably a fair bit of me, as in him. Yeah, we'd laugh about it after. But it was pretty inhibiting because he's a strong unit.
Was that the grand final with Norwood did no press and Glenelg did all the press? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yep.
In 75, yep. That was Wally made the rule in the week. And, so we let Glenelg go. And, so Roscoe kicked and really came into the game in the last quarter. You sort of took over. You couple of marks on the back play. Then a bit of rucking where Mike Olsen jumping over the top, palmed it down, and he followed up. You marked and handballed off to him, and the interesting goal umpiring decision. We all think it was a goal. And we're the ones that count. So
another Wayne Harms job.
Where Mike Polder may have carried it through, but so the Redlegs getting up 9-10 to 7-10, and it was. I admit too.
The sort of things, the right things go right for the winners, and the wrong things go wrong for the losers. But
I tell you what, this lady standing next to us grabbed Dad and kissed him when the siren went. And I'm thinking, geez, the old man's just got an upgrade. So, Mum wasn't too happy. So yes, but it was it was just interesting. So I was only 12, just watching people and just people just openly crying and a lot of relief. First flag in 25 years. It was certainly a special occasion.
Absolutely, and then first time for 25 years, and back at the ground, back at the Oval was just fantastic.
Parents wouldn't let me go. I'm still spewing about that. Yes, go on.
I still recall making way through the crush after the Oval celebrations had finished, and we're going back to the social club and trying to get across Wood Street there.
Yeah.
People shoving $10 and $20 notes and whatever in your pocket, and I'd have to say the taxman unfortunately it wasn't declared. I can't probably spend it 10 minutes later over the bar.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then 76 and 77, we sort of probably didn't quite come through as well. And then 78, with your body started to let yourself down, and you coached. Coaching.
I coached the twos.
Yes.
I couldn't. One of my strengths was I could jump, for marking, etc. And my knees started to, my left knee in particular, started to annoy me fairly constantly. I like to be fit, which meant you had to do plenty of work to get fit, and you started to be that you're inhibited doing that. So it started to tail away, and I coached the twos, and I was assistant coach and coach of the twos, and I said I'd really finished. I didn't want to play, and then later in the year, there must have been players injured, and they asked me to play, and so I played through to the second semi, and and unfortunately, the twos won, which was fun.
Beat West Adelaide.
Against West Adelaide, we had a pretty strong side in those days.
Yeah, we got one of the. We've got David Palm on later tonight as well. Actually, we're doing a few tonight, so that was. Yeah, I'll always say that Palmy not playing in the league side, I'll always find that as a.
It was he and Chris Penniman were
I
close selection. Yeah.
Yeah.
You better not say too much, Malcolm. I'm sure I was a selector in those days. So
Yeah, I thought Palmy should have played. I've got to be fair, but
you
yeah.
tell Palmy for sure I would have played him. Yeah.
When did the business side of it kick in when you were over here with the? So it was Westlake's news agency to start with, wasn't it, Roscoe?
No, Norwood.
Oh, the Norwood news agency. That's right.
That was it happened in '78, and that really, and we had our first child, Alex.
Yep.
In '78. She was the first of 4 children. And we started the news agency at Norwood. After a year, expanded it. After 2 years, sold that and went to Westlakes, and that started a whole. We had 17 shops over time. Expanded them, knocked walls out, changed houses about 3 or 4 times. So there was, and I consciously made the decision. At the end of '79, that the coaching path wasn't going to be mine. We'd started the businesses, and so I know there's Norwood people who were not necessarily happy with the way or the fact that I stepped away, but I felt as though I just had to get on with the rest of my life.
And you've been a huge part of the South Australian news agency and book game now book industry, for a long time now.
45 years. The bookshop has been our last business. We grow these businesses and then sell them. The bookshop we held for about 37 years, and I sold it, or Sue and I sold it to 2 of our sons, Angus and Alistair, about 2 months ago. But I've never been so busy doing nothing.
I'm sure you're still in the office a fair bit, Roscoe. You couldn't help yourself, and obviously I greatly appreciate the fact that you've sold the definitive rule book in your shop, Roscoe. So yes, greatly appreciated it in that regard as well.
Good on you.
Was that something that you were keen to get into business-wise, like some sort of business related after your footy career?
That's a good question, because as a boy in the country, all I ever wanted to do was play footy for Victoria and cricket for Australia. That was my dream, and you'd never find me in the library at recess, lunchtime or afternoon, and exam time had come, and I'd think, this is pretty hard, mainly because I hadn't done any work. Footy season had finished, straight into cricket, and or it'd be athletics or swimming or tennis or whatever. It was a gung-ho sport in the country, and so then going to Melbourne to play footy and cricket, and going to Adelaide and playing footy and cricket. I never stepped foot inside a university, and so I thought, 77, 78. That the choices were go down the footy path, or get on with the rest of you, make a career out of something. And so friends of mine in Melbourne had about 5 news agencies at that stage, and I thought, if they can do it, maybe I can. And so, and Jack Richards, the mayor of Norwood at the time, assisted me to get the news agency in that new, what was Woolworths then, shopping centre, and that really gave us a start, and just progressively, taking risks like in sport, calculated risks, and backing it up with focus and concentration and hard work, and working with good people. Similar things with footy and cricket that I applied to.
Oh, don't worry, Roscoe knows his stats. I walk him in the shop and he go, sold 7 of that one book yesterday, 4 of that one, 3 of that one. He's got a bloody memory like a steel trap. So, yes.
Dillon's bookshop, obviously located on the parade, still doing a roaring trade.
That's the one of my 2 two
Yes.
sons.
Two boys have got.
and
Yep.
Alistair have taken over.
Was it a lot of learning on the job with that?
Absolutely. This is me, you mean?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't have a book background, but that shop started off as 65 square meters, and it's had 6 expansions at 700 square meters now.
Yeah.
It's a terrific business, terrific location, great demographic. So Sue and I only hope that the boys continue and do really well in it.
Oh, kudos to you and Sue too. How many of the staff have been there for donkey's years as well? I think that's always a big tick for any business when there's long-standing staff around as well.
Connie, Amanda,
Yeah.
Kathy, some of these girls have been there for 20 years or 25 years, and they're just treasures. They're fantastic. Has enabled me to develop another interest playing golf, being involved at Kooyonga.
Kooyonga, yes. Kooyonga Golf Club leader, captain at one start and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, you've always been a pretty big golf man as well, Roscoe.
Yeah, didn't play it when I was younger much. Because footy and cricket, they were the main focuses. But golf for me is I love the banter. I love the fact that sometimes you do well and sometimes you don't. You can get a sporting highlight every now and again, and the odd low light as well. But you can still compete, and that's what I enjoy doing.
What's the handicap, mate?
It's about 13, 14 at the moment, or it's I'm playing off about 14. I think it's about 11.4 or 11.8 or something
Nice.
like that.
I knew you'd know the stats on that one for sure.
And Roscoe, you served on the Adelaide Footy Club board as well, and if they'd had a brain, you would have ended up high, doing a lot more and in a significant position as well. So, yes.
3 years there. Fortunate to be there when won the '98 premiership. Bob Hammond was really the one who caused me to be involved.
Yep.
But a bit the same as when at Norwood. It didn't suit me at the end. I didn't like some of the things that had happened.
Yep.
And said, well, I got other things to do in my life. I'd rather get on with that. I don't want to exist in an environment that I don't enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I summed that up pretty well. It was just, let's just say that was disappointing. There were things which should have happened, and Adelaide Football Club would have benefited, but that's life. And
Malcolm, there's politics in the bowls
everything.
club, in
Yep.
the tennis
in
club,
everything. Yep.
So footy does.
There's often more politics in sport than what there is politics in politics.
I'm not much of a politician.
Yes, not my strength in life either, Roscoe. I admit too, when I was doing the article on Ross, so Sue and the children and through Ross's mum and that did up a book of all his clippings, and Roscoe lent it to me for that. So I admit I was happy as a pig in shit with having every clipping around and reading through it.
Absolutely.
The other half, Emma was panicking that I'd get water on it or anything, but no, I was very careful and made sure that it was returned in pristine condition. So.
Yeah, but left half the cuttings out. I got. I was a keen gatherer of these things over time, and I got about two suitcases. So just out some of the really good ones. There's a photo in there of taking a mark in front of Big Nick and Polly Farmer on the MCG when we were playing Victoria, playing Western Australia, and I said that's not even in there. Anyway. But it's been a lot of fun.
And now one other point too, Pete. So Roscoe's named in the top 10 Kyabram sportsmen of the last century. Now these include your world champion, your sprint cyclist Stephen Pate, Dick Clay and Gary Lyon, and Test cricketers Jimmy Higgs and Matty Elliott. So it's fair company.
Matthew Elliott.
Yeah.
Matthew Elliott. Unfortunately, Brett Dillion, he came after the last century, so you'll have to wait for the next one. Brett Dillion, Jimmy Higgs. I was actually talking to Dick Clay yesterday. He lives in Ocean Grove, and I rang him to say congratulations on being named one of 8 Richmond Immortals.
Yes.
He's been added to it, and he said, lucky it's called Immortal and not Mortal. But I congratulated him on that. And then he said, hey, hang on, about it. I still get the Kyabram Free Press. I got it today, each week, and a young boy, Rowan Aldous, who's a journalist there, rang me a week before Anzac Day, because apparently the first game I played at the MCG was on Anzac Day, and there was a story about 2 young boys were going to play in Little League on the MCG that particular Anzac Day. Anyway, he said, can I send you some questions? Anyway, he sent me about 26 questions, and I thought, geez, this is going to take a while. So I replied to it, and out of it, it became a 2-page article in the Free Press. And Dick Clay, yesterday, he was complaining to me that he's just been named as an immortal at Richmond, and he got 2 paragraphs, and I got 2 pages, and I said, well, you'll have to investigate whether I paid for that or not.
I will say one thing too about Roscoe. He's very Kyabram still. He always goes back. Kyabram in the finals, he's back. He follows Kyabram still very, very forcefully, and certainly always knows what's going on, and that.
A bit
like Winnie, always checking in.
Winnie, you can't believe that he doesn't live in Adelaide, because he knows everything that goes on. He's in touch with anyone who's got a problem or has got a difficulty, etc. Winnie's the first one on the phone.
He's the godfather of the Norwood Footy Club, well and true, and the leader. Man. He's the leader, and I often see a lot of similarity. I've always said with John Wynn and Ian Chappell, they're 2 elite leaders and leader of men, and Winnie's compassion and care for everyone he's a remarkable man, Jonathan Francis Wynn.
I was just talking about Dick Clay and his disappointment regarding his 2 paragraphs in the paper. The other thing you didn't mention was the being selected to sit with the royal family in 1970, I think it was, at the MCG with Ross Smith and John Schultz. Which that came out of the '69 Carnival and us beating South Australia, I think.
And you entertaining Princess Anne.
Well, we were instructed to address them as Your Royal Highness. Well, as a boy from the country, that didn't sort of ring too many bells. And after about 5 minutes, I thought, this is going to be really boring for all of us if I go down that path. So I thought I'll just talk. I was between the Duke and Princess Anne and the Queen and these days King Charles. Anyway, so between the Duke and Anne and I getting on like a house on fire. We were laughing and joking, and every now and again the Duke would ask me a question. What's that fellow in white? What's he running there for? And I had to. I was just about to say, listen, pal, I'm a bit busy here. If you wouldn't mind asking Johnny Schultz, he doesn't seem quite so busy. But, I did not get an invite back to they had some function at the Britannia back at the wharf that night. And I didn't get an invite to go back there, and I was pretty disappointed in that. So my mate Ray Presnell, who'd come from Kyabram, and I went to Powerhouse Disco on Albert Park Lake that night and laughed our heads off. Yeah. Anyway.
What could have been?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that'd be right.
So mate, it'd be remiss not to ask best players you played with.
Best players played with. I love playing Oh, yeah, Dick Clay was great. Yeah, it was 70-metre drop kicks, centre half forward. Kai Abram, and he's in the team of the century at Richmond.
Yep.
He was terrific. There was a fellow at Kai Abram that no one had ever in Adelaide would have ever heard of, as a fellow called Jeff Cooper, two Aboriginal brothers. Well, Shepparton were our arch rivals, and Jeff Cooper, and coached by Tom Hafey, and Jeff Cooper one day kicked 9 goals out of 11 from the wing, playing for Kai Abram. He came from a mission near Swan Hill, and he was Eddie Betts playing for Kai Abram. He was that good. But in those days, other than Doug Nichols and probably Sid Jackson, there were very few Aboriginal players ventured to Melbourne to play. There were probably earlier in Western Australia with Farmer and the Crackers and co. But Farmer was fantastic. I loved playing with Hassan Mann for Melbourne.
Yep.
He was fantastic. Playing against, I've always found Peter Stewart, who was at North Melbourne, difficult. In Adelaide here, Butch Phillips and Sandy Nelson. Those guys weren't easy to combat. Phil Carman.
Yeah, he was incredible.
I have significant regrets the way it finished for Phil.
Yeah.
He was. I always thought that. I played with him in '73 and '74.
Yep.
He went to Collingwood in '75 and should have won the Brownlow for sure that year, other than for a broken bone in his foot, I think, in a state game. Winnie was a different type of great player, but terrific captain. Russell Evert, obviously, and Barry Robin, they were freakish. Blighty. They pretty well.
Yep.
I'm sure.
It's a fair list.
Yeah.
Paul Bagshaw, Rick Davies.
Yep.
How good were they?
Oh, fantastic.
But Woody kicked 601 goals for us, or 602.
Yep.
He regrets kicking one of those.
You
probably know about.
I knew you'd get that line in. I was been waiting for it.
Oh well, Gags and Glenn Rosser.
Kingo.
Kingo. Oh, you can't forget Kingo. As I said, I'll leave people out, but I refer to Kingo as Wally's pet because he won at least six best and fairest, and
6 other times in the top 3, and twice runner-up at the Copeland too. And we have had Kingo on with us one night too. So great man as well.
Yeah, terrific player, terrific. Okay.
Greatly appreciated, Roscoe. Say hello to Sue, and good luck to the boys in the business. And I did ring Thrasher to see if he was going to be involved. He said, "Come on, rule book. I've never picked up a book in my life." So just stirring Thrasher up as well. So yes.
Otherwise, good on you. It's been a pleasure. Good to know you.
Greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much, fellas.
Thank you very much for your time, mate.
Thanks, Roscoe.
Good on you. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.